One of the GOP senators questioning the Attorney General today, Republican Marsha Blackburn, pressed Garland about the Justice Department memo that sparked all this controversy, what it was based on, and who actually wrote it.
Would you really honestly put parents in the same category as a Terry Nichols or a Timothy McVeigh?
My God, absolutely not.
Did you write that memo? Did staff write that memo? What would have led you to do this? It is so over the top.
This memo is about violence and threats of violence.
Senator Blackburn joins us now to talk about the answers she got today and the ones lawmakers say they still have not gotten. Welcome, Senator.
Good to see you. It was quite a day.
It was. I want to play something from one of the top Democrats, Senator Dick Durbin, describing the people that are supposed to be the subject of this memo. Here's how he described them.
These are not routine people incensed or angry. These are people who are acting out their feelings in a violent manner over and over again. The same people we see on airplanes and other places, same people, some of whom we saw here on January 6th.
What do you make of that characterization, Senator?
It is so inappropriate for them to categorize the individuals, the parents that are showing up at school board meetings and classify them as a domestic terrorist. And of course, Attorney General Garland was involved in the Oklahoma City bombing and in that case, and working through that process. That is why I brought up to him Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols, because to say that there is harassment, that there's intimidation, that there are threats of violence, but then not to be able to articulate any of those. Shannon, it led to what we saw as being incomplete answers, a frustrated Attorney General, someone who was confused, who was giving political answers instead of talking about the rule of law.
I want to read something from Esquire. Charles Pierce wrote this. He said Republicans tried to get Merrick Garland to admit he's sending FBI SWAT teams to bust PTA bake sales. He characterizes it this way. He says the cumulative effect of all this ranting and raving was to leave the unmistakable impression that Republicans were defending the intimidation of inconvenient local officials. Do you think it's important to have a distinction between parents who are angry and show up and are using their First Amendment rights and those who would actually threaten violence? He says it makes it look like Republicans are actually, saying that, you should be able to intimidate local officials.
We know that no one is in favor of violence, but what we are protecting is freedom of speech and the right of parents to be involved in the education of their children, their right to petition their government. These are people that are elected to represent them on these local school boards. And when parents have questions about curriculum, about mandates, about material that is in the library, about the safety of children at school, of course, they should be at the school board. They should be asking questions of those school board members. This is their right, and thank goodness parents are concerned and they're showing up and they have these questions, and I do hope that they're holding school board members to account. But for the School Board Association, which of course has now apologized for their letter, to coordinate with the White House and then to deliver a letter, a memo that is signed by the Attorney General of the United States, and it is done in a 4-day turnaround. You know, Shannon, I brought up to him the fact that there are 45 senators who sent a letter to him in August asking for a status update on the Durham investigation and asking for that report to be made public. We still do not have a response, but he could turn around this memo and basically calling parents domestic terrorists. He could turn it around in 4 days. It is unprecedented and unbelievable.
Yeah, and to be clear, the memo that came into them was the one that used the words domestic terrorist. It wasn't used in the DOJ memo, but a lot of people feel like it was embracing that idea, that idea. Okay, before you go, I want to make sure
Once he signed it, yes.
I want to make sure I ask you about vaccine mandates, because I know that there are a number of things floating around on Capitol Hill. You've got something with respect to vaccine mandates. I want to read something by Jonathan Reiner from the GW School of Medicine. He's a professor. He tweeted this: Senator Marsha Blackburn thinks that essential workers should be exempt from the vaccine because, quote, they figured out how to protect themselves. What the senator doesn't seem to understand is that the vast majority figured out that vaccines work. Listen, we have seen the vast majority of first responders get vaccinated, but not all of them want to or think they need to. What's your legislation about, briefly, if you could tell us?
The legislation is very simple. It says if you are an essential worker, you showed up, you did your job during the COVID-19 pandemic, and you do not want to take this vaccine for medical or for religious reasons, you should be exempt from this federal mandate. We think that is important. It will help to preserve the jobs of first responders, of our frontline workers, our law enforcement, airline workers, the trucking industry. We're facing a supply chain shortage. We're going into the holidays. Shelves are empty in stores. And this is going to make it worse because there are 10.4 million jobs that are unfilled in this country. And if Joe Biden gets his way with the mandate, what you're going to see is more jobs, hundreds of thousands of people that are going to become unemployed.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit later in the show about how that's impacting one city and their police force in a very concrete way. So we'll talk about that. Senator, great to see you. Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you. Thanks.